My name is Ed Steckley, and I'm doing this presentation for the Society of Illustrators Art Out Loud Instagram series. The reason this is clearly a re-recorded voiceover is simple. I thought I had my streaming software set up correctly when we went live. Turns out I did not. I got it working about a minute and a half into this whole shebang. But count your lucky stars, the visuals were all saved, and the images you're seeing now are some examples of my work. This live stream was streamed live on Friday, April 24th, 2020, right smack dab in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. What fun. A little bit about me. I'm your typical friendly neighborhood illustrator, and I have been for close to 30 years. Truth be told, my life really hasn't changed much since we all went under quarantine. As a freelancer, I've been practicing self-isolation for decades now, and I'm kind of what you call an expert. I draw for a variety of clients. Much of my time is spent as an advertising illustrator. I'm also one of the usual gang of idiots who draws for Mad Magazine. All you kids under 35, Google it. As if that weren't enough excitement, I also illustrate children's books. In fact, I'm in the middle of the final art for a new kids' picture book right now, and frankly, I shouldn't even be doing this. I got a deadline looming. But you seem like nice enough people, so I don't feel too guilty. With that, I'm just about to get the audio working on this goofy software, so I'll leave you to the 1/2 week younger version of myself for the remainder of this talk. If only I knew then what I know now. Enjoy!
But what I really like to do, what I've been talking about all week, I've been doing live streams all week, and they've been a lot about sketching. I do a lot of drawing. Every morning I wake up, I come down to my studio early in the morning, and I just kind of start drawing to get the bugs out. And I love to draw faces, so I do a lot of this stuff. I just kind of pick a face, and I'll just kind of work on it with hands and bodies, and this is what I do every morning when I sit and warm up at my drawing table. Love doing all this kind of stuff. So that's kind of a quick background on me. I am going to find my camera again. There we go. And this is my studio here. Later this weekend, not on the Society's Instagram, but on my own, I'm going to be doing a studio tour, which is something I kind of always wanted to do. I always like looking at other artists' studios. If you haven't seen Greg Preston's books, The Artist Within, Volumes 1 and 2, I have them right here, which is why I was looking. They're fantastic. It's a book of professional photographs of various artists in their studios, and I really get a big kick out of that. Artists take a lot of pride in their studios. I really like mine a lot. So I'm going to be showing that off. Sometime this weekend, I'm going to take a break from this book I'm working on and get going on that. But I thought we'd just get started here. First of all, I'm going to take a quick glance through the notes or through the comments. Keep it clean, you animals. And here we go. How's that? This makes it look like I know what I'm doing. I went to college in Wisconsin at the University of Wisconsin at one of the satellite schools called Whitewater. So I went to UW Whitewater in Wisconsin. I left school in 1995, about a credit shy of graduating. And if this locked up, let me know, because it just did on mine. In 2018 or 2018, I decided to finish up my degree. So actually, I'm a brand new college graduate as of 2018. Yeah, I was the oldest graduate that they had that year. Fine with that. So that's my college. I love you too, Mike Cavallero. I'm looking through the comments here. So I thought I would just, for this demo, just do kind of a mad style caricature from start to finish. If we have time, I'll color it. If depending on where the mood goes, how the comments go, I might just start another one, do more than one, I don't know. But we're just going to kind of play it by ear. I am going to pull up a canvas. There's me on the corner there. Hi. That's neat. I've been participating in a Facebook group, and I'm drinking Monster Low Carb while I'm doing this. because it's been a long day. I've been participating in a Facebook group since this Corona business started. A good buddy of mine, Tom Richmond, had the idea to start up a kind of a drawing. I don't know what you'd call it, just a drawing group, just for something to just kind of be a distraction while we're all sequestered. A lot of us as artists, I know that there's a lot of artists here, our lives really haven't changed all that much, or at least mine hasn't. I come down to my studio, which is in the basement, and sit here and draw in seclusion all day. The only difference is now if you put a mask on when you go to the store. But it's still kind of depressing, and as we all know. So this Facebook group started up, and I'm not one to participate in group drawing exercises, Inktober, any of that. I just never did it. It wasn't my thing. But this one, I figured, you know what? I like drawing caricatures, and it's caricature based, so I've been doing it. So a lot of my warm-ups in the last month have been references based on this caricature group that I've been about 75% actively participating in. So I thought I would take some samples, so the reference from a few days ago, and this one in particular is Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon's got a great face. I'm not a huge fan. I don't have too much of an opinion on him, but he has a very rubbery face, and the doctor that did my LASIK surgery a number of years ago also did his LASIK surgery, so I feel like we're kind of connected in that way. So why not? He'd be a fun subject to draw, and, you know, I'm going to take a stab at it here. Howdy, Caricature Shop. Oliver Perry Raunch, good to see you. Oh, I know a lot of people here. Hey, Cedar. Mazel. Okay, so actually, I'm going to switch cameras here, and I'm going to show kind of what I'm working on. So this device here, normally, if you saw it to my right, actually, I'll put on the other camera. To my right here, I always have a sketchbook. I always have a big 18 by 30 sketch pad. I go through them. I go through a number of these a year. And when I'm drawing, I sit in this, I have a barber chair that I actually swing around in. It's the kind with the gong, 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 gong. It's a lot of fun. But when I want to draw on a sketchbook, I just swing over here, turn my light on, and I can draw. And I do a lot of preliminary sketches there for anything I'm working on. But I also, you know, if I don't want to do that, and I don't want to have to deal with my cat, oh, look at that. He hasn't been here all day until just now. What I'm going to do today is I'm just going to do my sketches and some, hopefully, final art on the Wacom device, which I have on my desk here. So I'm going to fix this. It looks like I didn't transition to the old camera. I'm going to do that right now. So what I was pointing at before was this sketch pad that's always right here. To switch camera views, I have to do it, and then I actually have to hit a transition button. So this is my this is the Wacom Cintiq Pro 24. It's a lot of fun. I love drawing on it. I do a lot of my advertising work on this thing. It's nice and big. It's really cool. Yeah, Irving, that's his name. My other cat's name is Franklin and Irving, and someone once said this, it sounds like they're going to go open their own Jewish deli, and I thought that was pretty funny, so I hope they do. I'd really like that. So I'm going to switch camera views here so you can see kind of the goofy faces I make when I draw. So I'm going to walk through the process of doing one of these things here. So I'm using, I assume pretty much everyone in this chat are all artists. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the process, less about the tools, because I'm just using Photoshop. Regular Creative Cloud, I've been using it forever. And I drink a lot of seltzer water. So I have up there 3 reference shots of Jimmy Fallon. I'm just going to do quick thumbnails of each. And I keep looking down for the comments. No, you rule, Joe. This is fun. So I'm just going to go through each one of these and just do a really quick rough. I have a Photoshop layer that I always have. Every time I ever draw in Photoshop, I always have the same setup. And you can't see my palette or my layers palette, but I always have a layer called blue, and it is usually at about 10% opacity. Right now it's at about 40, so it'll show up in this. But that's where I kind of bang out these quick sketches like this. And I just want to get a feel for what's going on with this particular guy's head. Oops. There we go. I want to resize it a bit. There we go. If anybody has any questions about the hardware or the software, fire away. Later on, probably in a week or so, I'm going to do one of these things on the traditional media, because I really like painting, I really like watercoloring, and I do a lot of that. And like I said, this book I'm working on is all of that. It's designed on the computer like this, but then I transfer it to a board and ink and paint it the old-fashioned way. So what I'm doing right now is I'm roughing in a real basic layout of where I think Jimmy's caricature is going to go. He's got a really long head, but he's also very wide. He's got a great face, very animated. He has a lot of unique features. I keep watching the comments. Everybody's quiet. That's good. I'm going to grab my... This device has a cool remote control. I'm not worried about being nitpicky on this. I just want to do a quick layout, a first impression layout of where I think this drawing is going to go. I'm going to do one of these for all three of those references because I don't know which one I want to draw from yet. I'm just going to go with my gut and see where that takes me. I'm not going for likeness yet. I'm just going for basic rough layout. So there's one. I'm going to move that up to the side. And I'm going to do that middle one. I got to tell you, I really like this middle drawing, or not drawing, but this middle reference. Hey, Kababi, what's happening? I really like this middle one because it's less staged. These the references on the left and the right. I find that when doing caricatures, the more you can do candid, the more you can work off of candid shots, the better. Studio photographs are never all that great. You lose a lot. You can't really get much character out of them. So this shot here, where he's, the middle one, there's a lot of character and there's a lot going on in it. And I got a feeling I'm going to be gravitating towards this one. But I'm still going to just do my rough, just a placement of the features. What do you prefer? Which FOI do you prefer in your leisure time? What do you mean by that? I don't. Do you mean like what drawing? I assume you mean whatever, the draw traditional or digital. When I'm just on my own and I'm just drawing for fun, which I rarely do, to be perfectly honest, I love having a sketch pad. I love getting my hands dirty. I just started oil painting recently. I do a lot, well, I wish I did more, but I do a lot of that. So I like any kind of art where I get my hands dirty. But if I'm working out ideas for something, then it's ideal to take out the digital tablet here because it's so easy, It's just, all you do is open up a program and everything just kind of works, So I'm a big fan of these products. And I'm not really thinking about this. I'm just kind of going with my gut and letting just kind of going where the wind blows with this caricature. It's really hard to talk about exactly what you're thinking about when you're drawing, but I can say that in some shots, Jimmy has a very wide chin. In some shots, he has a very weak chin. In this reference shot that's on the right, he's kind of got his head turned back. I'm looking forward to drawing that one as well. That makes his chin look bigger than it really is. So I'm just going to... And if I was drawing on paper, and I did do a sketchbook demo earlier this week, if I was drawing on paper, I would be doing all this stuff pretty much the same way. Traditional or digital? Yeah, traditional. Would you do one about your digital pen choices and really get into specifics? Joe, I don't really focus on digital pens so much, and I assume you mean like Photoshop brushes. Right back, and I think that's what you meant. I don't spend a whole lot of time dealing with Photoshop brushes and creating Photoshop brushes. I have them. I bought all the Kyle's brushes and all that, and I have them if I need them, but I don't. I'm just not an expert at that. What I'm using right now, is the basic Photoshop round brush. Matey, how do I know what to exaggerate? That's a great question, and one that I get a lot. The thing about caricature, there's a lot of misconceptions about caricature. A lot of people seem to, or a lot of lay people seem to think that caricature is you grab onto one feature and you blow it out of proportion. Well, I'm not from that camp. A good caricature is making all the parts work together, but also emphasizing the things about a face that are unique to that person. I don't look at a face and think of one thing to exaggerate. What I do is I look at it, and first of all, I think of head shape, and then I just try to focus on the relationships between various features. That's more important than knowing what to exaggerate. Because what you're doing in a caricature is you're telling the story of that person. My philosophy is that a caricature is you are celebrating that subject and you want to tell that person's story as best you can. And to tell that story, you have to there's a lot of pages in this book. What I just did here, that's the small drawing I just did. There's a lot of things that you can see that I did that are stretched and make it, less, I guess less human, but there's no one thing in particular. And I certainly didn't think about it. I know that's a horrible answer and very unsatisfying, but that's what a caricature is. You're telling a story of that person and what makes that person unique. So I don't think of what I'm going to exaggerate. I just dive right in. I've also been doing this a long time, so a lot of it's instinctual. So that's my second one. Hey, Caricature Shop. Now I'm going to dive into this third one quick, and I see this third photo, the one on your right. He has his head back a little bit, and I'm getting kind of almost like a building, like you're looking up at a building. He's got kind of this perspective, so I'm going to focus on this shape, this perspective shape on him. This is a very staged photo. Like I said before, I don't prefer to do those, but I want to at least, what I'm doing right now is I'm learning this guy's face. To draw anybody successfully, you have to be familiar with the subject. Ideally, you should be really familiar with him. Like if it's a cast member on a TV show that you really like, you're familiar with that person, at least with the character. What I'm doing right now is I'm becoming familiar with Jimmy. I don't watch his show. I kind of know him from Saturday Night Live, but I've never really studied his face all that much. Although I did a very similar demo yesterday where I did use different reference shots of him, but we'll keep that to ourselves. I didn't become familiar with him. So what I'm doing now is I'm getting to really learn what's going on with this guy's face as best I can. And I could talk about things I'm seeing, but I do know, again, there's a lot of artists in here who are seeing the same thing. For example, his nose is a lot wider at the top, right here, than it is down at the bottom here. So that's important. Things like that. How do his features work together? That's what a caricature is. You have to figure out, every face is like a puzzle, and you're figuring out how that puzzle works to end up at the subject. So I'm just roughing it in. If I was doing anything for a real job or a MAD, this is exactly how it would begin. A lot of times it would be on paper, but really, if I'm in a hurry, like I said, I do a lot of advertising. If I'm in a hurry, I'll just bang out stuff in Photoshop here and be done with it. That way I can email it off right away. Who else is here? BBBDDDOO. Nice to see ya. All right. He has a short neck. It's kind of odd. It looks a little. I am going to grab onto that. I see things that I want to grab onto. That's one, but it's not something I really think about. He also has kind of a squared off face, yet it's round and a bit more feminine than I would have thought. But I'm still just adding it up here. And again, I'm not going for likeness. I'm going for, I guess you might be able to say, I'm going for the design of the face. Where is teeth placed? How important are his ears? Where are they? That kind of thing. So that's what I'm going for. Now I've got 3 really rough sketches of Jimmy. And if you go through my sketchbook, I've got a million of these. Will you be doing more live? I don't know. See how this goes. I've been doing these things all week just to get to know this software. I don't really know. I do these things when I'm not doing real work. So I think I'm going to focus on this one here because I think hey, ciao! I think it's probably the hardest one of them to draw, but I think it feels more natural. That reference in the middle, I think it tells a better story. There's more going on there. I'm happy with that reference photo, even though it is kind of weird. I'm going to go with that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this layer. I think maybe I'll take this drawing here and select the rest, inverse, and I'm gonna use this sketch as a really loose reference for the next sketch, and I'm going to reduce the opacity of that one down to about 8%. You probably can barely see it. Let's see, did I miss any other? I'm trying to catch up with the comments a little bit so you can see my big forehead. Nice and shiny today. Okay, so I'm going to do exactly the same thing I just did with the same. I'm using a bluish gray. For some reason, I got into the habit of sketching in Photoshop with this kind of bluish grayish tint. No idea why. It just works for me. That's that. And I'm going to try to get a little closer to what I'm visualizing with this reference photo. And I'm going to start. I'm not starting in anywhere in particular. I'm just kind of going wherever the wind blows right now. I really like how his face is jutting, his whole head is jutting forward, but his eyebrows are up. There's something going on. And as I'm doing this, I'm looking up at the same reference photo you are. Sorry I can't make it bigger on the phone screen, but that's Instagram. And I'm going to just work on the head shape right now. And I'm not relying on the photo as much as it may look like, because I have 3 references there, and also on my screen in front of me, and I'm going to change camera views too. On my screen in front of me, I also have a lot more pictures of him. I had them out. I chose those three that you see on your phone there to draw from, but I've got him from other angles, and frankly, they're all very much alike. They're all studio shots. This one of him, the 3/4 there, is the only one that's not a professionally shot photo. So I'm going to use that one. Jimmy probably wouldn't like it, but he's not going to pay for this. So I'm just going to keep roughing in, refining. Again, I'm not reliant as much on the photo reference. I'm using all the knowledge that I have about Jimmy here, and I look up at the photo just to get some details, just to get this and that. But I've got an idea in my head, A, of what this drawing is going to look like, and B, where I'm going. I just don't want to be beholden to a photograph. One thing that drives me nuts about, actually I should make this bigger so you can see it, right? I usually draw small. One thing that drives me nuts about a lot of caricature artists is that you see that their work, and it can be great, but you'll think to yourself, yeah, I know what photo was used for that because I've seen the photo. I try to make sure I use lots of different photos for things, just to tell a better story of that person. No one photo captures one person correctly. You got to use a lot, in my experience. I'm going to grab onto Jimmy's long, sharp nose, which is almost perfectly horizontal to the ground. That's fun. Again, if you have any questions or anything, leave them in the comments. I'm looking down every now and then. And I'm taking what I drew also and I'm refining it a bit. In fact, I'm going to get rid of that underlying blue line sketch here. He's kind of in mid-sentence, so he's kind of talking, which is fun. You can see all the musculature in his chin. You can actually see, which is neat. I'm going to turn on the other camera because I think if I make any references to how his face is working, you'll be able to see it. Boxers are tidy whities. Way to go, Dave Mauter. And I know he has a square jaw, but I know that he's jutting his jaw forward. That's part of the story that's going on with this particular photo. So I'm going to have fun with that, and I'm going to have him doing probably one of these. I also see he doesn't have big eyes. His eyes are wide set, but I'm going to accentuate his eyes and make them a little bigger than I think they should be. And again, I'm making a point not to get real specific with these sketches. I just want to get an idea so I can get to a point where I'm comfortable doing a final caricature. So if you can look at this and maybe see where I'm going, then that's good. How much do the Wacoms cost? Is there one model you recommend over for another with just the right amount of bells and whistles? That depends on what you're doing with it. If you're a working professional, you want to get the Cintiq Pro. If you're an enthusiast or you're not reliant on it, they have a new product called the Wacom One, which is it's still great. But it doesn't have all the bells and whistles. The one I'm using is 4K. It's super heavy duty. It works great. This one is for working professionals. If you're just kind of dipping your toe into the world, I would recommend. I think it's the Wacom One. It's probably another product I'm not thinking of right now, which is a real drag because I want to steer everybody in the right direction. How did you manage to learn after you left school? I learned the reason I left school was because I got a job. That's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. For years, I drew caricatures in theme parks. That's right. You ever go to a Six Flags and you saw people drawing pictures there? That was me. Airbrush caricatures. I got through college doing it, and after a while, me and a good friend of mine, we went into business together, and we opened up a couple retail caricature stands around the country. So that the reason I left school was because we opened one up in St. Louis, and basically I left work. I left school to go work. And I'm not self-taught. I think any artist who tells you they're self-taught is uh, doing other people a disservice, because every artist learns from other artists. No one's in it on their own. I had mentors. I have mentors. I mentor people. It's a community. So I'm not entirely self-taught. There's a lot of things that I figured out on my own, but I certainly had a lot of help along the way. What's dollar amount? Roz, I couldn't tell you. I don't know offhand. Go to Wacom.com, WACOM.com, and all the prices will be up there. I really can't say, and I don't want to say it and then have to correct it later. Okay, this is where I'm going with Jimmy. Now, obviously this is still a rough sketch, but I want to get some sort of body in here and finish telling the story. Sounds like AA. Yeah, you're right. Caricature shop, you're in my community. Just spilled water on my iPad. Okay, so I think I really want to focus on Jimmy getting excited about the story he's telling. So any artist watching this will know this is more or less a gesture drawing. Hopefully it'll be a good one. But I do know that he does this thing where he does a whole lot of pointing. So I'm going to start with that. Let's see. He gets very excited about stories he's telling. I think I'm just going to draw a quick body on him here. This could all change. That's not right. If I was doing a job for, say, Mad Magazine or something like that, I would have a script. And I've been a commercial illustrator for a long time. I'm really good at working from scripts. This time I do not have one. I'm just trying to tell a story of this particular guy. I'm going to come back to that. Some hands. Have him grabbing his tie. I saw him do that. I did some research before I did this. I watched the show. He's got some nervous tics. One thing I also don't do is I don't do the lollipop head thing. I don't draw. I don't like to draw the big heads, little bodies thing. A lot of caricature artists do. But because this is Instagram and it's a really small screen, I want to make sure that everything comes across. So again, if everybody just walked in late, I am just roughing in a quick outline here. And I'm always looking back to see if there's anything that needs to be changed. If you can take away anything from a sketch and it looks more like what you're going for, that's what I do. If I take away something like this ear and I can see him more in that drawing, that means that something's wrong with that ear. Again, try not to be too beholden to the reference photo. All right, so I'm going to use this as my sketch. Who's your favorite artist? Ellen, you're my favorite artist. Wisconsin versus New York preference. Yeah, if you couldn't tell by my accent, I am from Wisconsin, and I now live in New York City. And I'm going to take a different color here. If I'm doing some line art, I like to work. I don't like to draw in black. Also, if I'm inking anything for books or MAD, I tend to use not black. I use a sepia and red earth mix. Do you use this to make? Do you use to make this process you're showing us when doing it live in the park? This is not how I would draw in the parks at all. When I draw in the parks, if I was sitting in a theme park chair right now, there's a couple of theme park artists who were here, it would be more like you just lay a line down, you do it, and you move on. No sketching. I did that for almost 20 years. So I'm going to get back to this face here. And you see that blue line drawing there. Again, I'm not beholden to that. I am using that simply as a guide. And as I draw, I am going to be making changes to the decisions I made in that blue line sketch. Because I know I have an idea now of where I want this to go. Do you ever send the caricatures to the person unsolicited? No. I don't do a caricature unless it's a job or it's a demo like this. Or if it's a gift for a friend or something, but I don't even do that anymore. So I'm going to turn down the blue line sketch a little bit so you can barely see it on your phone, and I can barely see it. I'm going to raise his eyebrows up. He's got this funny eyebrow raised look. He also has really unusually shaped eyebrows. They kind of have this devil thing happening, and they're really far apart. So I'm going to start here, knowing full well I may go back and change it, but this is where I think I'm going to go with the placement of his eyebrows. You can see how much I'm deviating from that blue line sketch. I have no problem with that. I also never have a problem with erasing and starting over. Any artist who has a problem with that probably shouldn't go into commercial art, because I redo drawings all the time, either on my own behest or because of some art director. And I'm a commercial artist, so I'm beholden to art directors quite a bit. Thanks so much. Which one did I answer? Sorry, line letters. But you're welcome. Let's see. Oh. He has a really interesting nose. It's got a hook to it, but not enough to really pay attention to. So I'm not going to draw attention to his hook. Will you ever redraw the blue line, though? No, I don't think so. Unless that blue line sketch I did, like if something really clicked and some magic happened during it, then yeah, I would rely on that more. That rarely happens. Jimmy's got a really wide nostril. There's some structure in here. This is the orbital socket I just drew. And again, his nose is very much wider at the top than it is at the bottom. It's a bit unusual. But those are the kind of details you want to pick up. Again, nothing I'm doing is ever mean. Nothing is, it's another misconception about caricatures, is that they can be mean. They don't have to be. Everyone approaches caricatures in a different way. I've heard many caricature speakers talk. They'll tell you that you could take 10 different caricature artists, give them reference photo for some subject, have them draw them without seeing anybody else's. They'll come back with 10 extremely different drawings. Because a caricature is the part of the caricature itself is the artist. The artist puts themselves into it. Probably like that for all kinds of art, but this is the one I know about. I approach my caricatures from a different place than other people approach their caricatures. Like I said, I never have malicious intent in mind. That's why I'd be a terrible editorial cartoonist. I don't, like I said earlier on, my goal here is to celebrate the subject, no matter who it is. Even if the subject doesn't deserve to be celebrated, I still want to tell their story accurately, or at least my interpretation of their story. Hi, Park Hygiene, but I can't read that. Still roughing things in because I'm trying to figure out what's going on with this mouth. This is a pretty hard angle to draw at as well. Why do I make things so hard on myself? Thirsty. All right. I'm going to zoom out a bit. I don't like to zoom in that close. Outrageously, Vanessa. I don't like to zoom in that close. When I'm doing this normally, especially in Photoshop, I always have a second Photoshop window open of the same thing on a different screen that's a lot smaller. So even if I do have to zoom in, I can always look at the other screen and see a smaller version of it, and then a lot of my boo-boos and errors will really stand out. I said, going by this middle reference photo, it looks like he has a small chin, but look at the other photos and he has a very wide chin. So I'm going to keep that in mind. He also has puffy eyelids, which is also kind of interesting. So I'm going to round these appley cheeks out. Hi, Vicho. And pull it in and emphasize this smile. I'm going to add I always like to add a little bit of structure. I think of things like this in terms of sculpture rather than line. So I'm always thinking about where the peaks and valleys are. You know, I don't think in terms of color. I'm not very good at color. Everything I know about color, I had to teach. I had to just kind of, you know, force, because I don't. It's not how I think about things. I think of things in light and shadow, and I'd to see more of your working setup. Yeah, I'm going to do a studio tour over the weekend. I have to film it. I can't just do a live feed of it. I tried to with some of this cool Instagram software, but in order to use the phone camera, it turns out you have to be connected. Although the software I bought says you don't have to be. I learned and you do have to be connected. It didn't work at all, which is a real drag. I had that all ready to go a few days ago. So I'm drawing this some musculature in here as well as some teeth poking out. So I have to get some of this action right to the right of his mouth. It's very important because it adds to his expression. And you can tell how much I'm still deviating from that blue line sketch. Oops. One of the disadvantages of working digitally is that, boy, is it easy to hit the Control-Z button. In my case, on my little pen here, I have a button that actually is Control-Z, and that is way too tempting. I get too used to it, and that's one thing I tell young artists a lot, especially the ones who have learned how to draw on the computer. Stop doing so much Control-Alt or Control-Zing, because you have to learn. There's a lot that can happen by working with your mistakes. A, you'll become more careful. B, a lot of the mistakes you make are workable. You know, if you're drawing with ink and you're on the last couple strokes of a comic book page or something like that, and you have to color over it and you don't have whiteout, you have to make stuff like that work. And I think it's extremely important. See, I'm looking back for comments here. Sorry, everybody. Okay. Just going to kind of fill in the hair here a little bit. If anybody's curious, I have my Photoshop brush. I never use it at 100%. I have it at 80% opacity and flow. I always have it between 75 and 80%. Very imprecise. Beef up these lines a bit. Okay, I'm going to start on this body a little bit. I want to come back to his face because I know it needs some tweaking, but I need to get away from it a bit. So I'm going to start drawing a few other things here. Love drawing hands. Oops. You see how many times I just hit Control Z there? None of those were necessary. You can't do that when you're oil painting. Do I have a favorite person to draw? No. I like drawing everybody. I like the challenge of a new person to draw. I don't have a favorite. I don't have a favorite type of person to draw. Some people will tell you that, people that are good-looking people are harder to draw. I never bought into that. Everybody's the same. If you go about a caricature the right way, well, not the right way, but if you go about caricature the way I do, with the mindset of you're celebrating that subject, there's good in everybody, and everybody can, in their own way, can be good looking. So I don't think of it like that at all. I've had to draw a few people more times than I'm comfortable with, not to get political. But I think you know where I'm going with that. Do you use the brush minimum size, 10%, maybe less? I have the brush, it's a good question. I don't know, I'll look and see. Right now my brush is at 20. That's the maximum. The minimum I think I have set to 0, if I remember right. I don't really know. Yeah, sorry, I can't really answer that. What medium is your favorite to work in? That goes back and forth. Like I said, for this book I'm in the middle of, my second kids book, it's a follow-up to my first. It's inked with crow quill, pen nibs, and ink, obviously. I really enjoy doing that. I think I get a kick out of that more than anything else. It's the thing I struggled with the most, but the results of drawing in pen and ink are the most satisfying to me, I think. Like I said, I just started oil painting. That's more of a hobby. I don't do nearly enough of it, but I'm really liking that. Once I get good at it, if I get good at it, I'll probably change my tune. How many hours a day do you spend practicing on the craft daily? This is my job, so if I'm working, that is technically practice on the craft. Hope that doesn't sound too, I guess, goofy, weird. But yeah, I practice. I mean, I'm practicing right now. Every now and then, it's very rare that I'll actually get a day off. Even if I do have a day where I'm, say, not booked, there's always something to do. Either if I'm not booked on a job, and again, I'm completely freelance. I'm a freelance illustrator. If I'm not booked on a job, my job is then to try to get booked on other jobs. So either that involves drawing, or it involves doing the books, doing some kind of promotion. I'm always working on it. I think there's more to being an illustrator than just knowing how to sling paint. I think all the artists in here can back me up on that. Being good at the other stuff is equally as important. It's a craft. We all have to learn accounting. We all have to learn how to talk to clients on the phone. We all have to learn how to be personable. So I spend all the time working on the craft. One thing I don't do that I just started doing recently is draw for fun. I just was kind of always bad at that. because I've been doing this for so long. If I want to be, if I'm downstairs in the studio drawing, it's for a job. But recently, especially with all this Corona business, I started just kind of drawing more, making myself draw more. Any tips to reduce stress on hand wrist from repetitive motion? I've heard that from other people before. I've never had that problem. Um, this kind of goes against what I said before, but you know what? Everybody, I'm about to get knocked off of this Instagram feed. So I am going to do a real quick switcheroo here and go to where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Sorry, everybody. Can't find my camera. Sorry, everybody. Bear with me for 1 second. Okay. Instagram only lets us do this for an hour, and I've been going for about 54 minutes. So right now, I'm going to, I have to log off, I have to reconnect with a new stream key, and I'm going to come right back here. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes. So, and I do have the Society of Illustrators permission to do this. Hopefully they weren't kidding. So I will answer that question in a little bit, but for right now, this is going to shut off. I'm going to reconnect. Just be patient. It takes about 2 minutes. Bear with me. And here we are. Hope everybody got a good potty break in. I did not. But let's see if we, I think we lost all of our old comments too, but the last one was before we had to cut out was about carpal tunnel. I never had that problem. I have a little lumpy thing on my wrist, but I don't think it's related. I think it's just one of those cyst things that people get. I've had it for 20 years. Hi, Vicho Friendy. Good to see you again. Oh, good. Everybody's coming back. This is great. So I am going to put my other stuff back up. Camera, big camera. I have to pick and choose which sources actually show. So I'm going to put on camera behind me, and I'm going to see. Small. Okay, and I need to put on my sketch page and my Jimmy Fallon. There we go. There we go. Hey, everybody. So here we are again. Hi, Bailey. Open call for artists. Anybody else I missed? Character shop. Everybody's here. Good. So I'm back on my drawing here at Jimmy Fallon. Just before we got cut off, it was a talk about carpal tunnel. I do know that a lot of artists wear a brace around their wrist. I've just been lucky enough to not have to do that. It's not been a problem. Not to say that there's anything I'm doing, is alleviating that. I just haven't had that problem yet. I think when I draw, I'm very animated. I do. If you watch my hand, I move all around. So I do very little repetitive action. Who are some of your favorite caricature artists? Yeah, Chris Payne is fantastic. Big fan of Mort Drucker. Everybody you mentioned there, of course. I know Seiler well. Um, I'm a big fan of Mort Drucker, who of course we just lost, I think, last week. He was a huge influence on me. Big fan of Sebastian Kruger. If you're an artist and you're interested in caricatures and you don't have his books, shame on you. You should go get them. I enjoy all types of caricature artists. I really like people that do work that's in a very different vein than mine. Yeah, God, that's a good question that I do get quite a bit, and it always kind of throws me for a loop because I don't want to leave anybody out. Uh, yeah, a lot of the old school Mad Magazine artists, a lot of the new school Mad Magazine artists. Um, Very saddened about Mort. I know that was a tough day. I didn't get much done that day. I got to know Mort, not all that well, but I got to know him. And you've heard the stories about don't meet your heroes. Mort did not fall into that group. He was one of the sweet. He was just the sweetest man. Very, very kind. Very interested in uh, young artists. When I met him, I was a young artist. Yeah, there was a time. Um, yeah, just a big fan. Jack Davis, obviously. I have a lot of all these people have influenced me in one way or another, but not all in some of the ways that you'd think. I get a lot, I get something from every artist I see. You know, it's you may not be able to put your finger on it, but there's a lot of things that I do that are because I saw someone else do something similar and I do my take on it. I think every illustrator is can say that. That goes back to the whole are you self-taught? Nobody's self-taught. Absolutely nobody is self-taught. Everyone learns from other people. Whether or not they went to school is not what I'm talking about. Everyone is influenced by someone who inspired them. I'm just going to do some throwaway feet here because I don't want to run out of time. I don't want this to go for another hour. Sorry, everybody. I could. I could easily sit here and draw for, hours and hours. I'm just going to do some cross-hatching shading here. I'm going to go in and I'm going to draw this hand, but I want to make sure that this hand, I'm zooming in. I really want to make sure I get this hand right because I know what I want the hand to do, and hands are extremely important. Hands tell a lot. They help hands tell the story more than most people think. And again, like I said before, caricature is you telling a story of that person. And hands are a big part of that. How they hold their hands, what they're doing with it. Hey, people speak with their hands. Sounds cliche, and I don't care. And I did catch some of this guy's show. I saw that he kind of has he's very animated hand. He's always doing something with them. So, but he also does this pointing thing where he points up in the air. So I'm gonna grab onto that. Make my brush a little smaller so I can get some details in here. Not too much. I want to have as much detail in this as I do in the rest of the drawing. I don't want the hand to stand out. I don't want to get too anal with it. Okay. My headphones are starting to die, so I need to put them somewhere. I heard that boop, boop, boop noise from my headphones. I'm going to switch camera angles so you don't have to look at my head that's horribly in need of a haircut. Because man, is it ever. See? I learned early on to draw hands. You got to learn how to draw hands if you're going to be an artist, especially a caricature artist. I mean, it goes without saying that good caricature is more than just the face. I know that there's the whole live caricature art aspect of it, and that's kind of a different story because you do have a small amount of time. But if you want to do a successful caricature of someone, you have to tell the whole story, and that includes the body, the hands, body language, posture, all that stuff contributes to the caricature. Okay, so here's where I'm at. This is the point where if I was working on a real job, this would be my sketch, and then I would do some final art over this. But I know I don't have time for that. Now, if you notice, I didn't do the eyeballs yet. because I wanted to see if anybody would call me out on it. Did you hear that Mark English is passing? No, I did not. Don't know if you answered because I was offline. Do you have tips of reducing stress on hand and wrist? I do not. I never had any problems with carpal tunnel or anything like that. So sorry, I can't help with that one. Like I said, there's a lot of artists I've seen where they wrap up their forearms and wrists. Now that I said that, I'm probably going to get it tomorrow, carpal tunnel. Now I'm going to slow down and I'm going to get these eyeballs in here. He has very intense eyes and he's kind of looking down. When you draw the irises, you have to think of a circle being drawn on another circle. So you want to draw it in somewhat of perspective so it lines up. I'm somewhat paying attention to the photo reference. It's like if the eyes were converging somewhere close, somewhere far, you could see all that. But right now I'm to the point now where I'm just want to tell the story, and I'm gonna lean less on the photo reference than before. I think in this, what I had in mind with this is that he kind of has a Jack Paar feel to it, like an old-timey variety talk show host, and I kind of like that. I'm going to add a few details here. I'm going to make my brush small, and I'm going to do a few things just to build up some area. His smile right here, I'm going to build that up. And I'm not going to do too much right now because I would assume that this is going to be painted eventually. I'm not going to paint it today, but I would assume that, I want to have as few lines as possible, but I think I can still tell this story better by elaborating on some of the contours of his face. Maybe here. I know that he has a little thing in his chin. I don't see it in this reference, but I do know it's there, and I think it's important. The whole thing about caricature is I'm trying to leave out the things that aren't important and celebrate the things that are important. I say that a lot, this drawing is, caricature is meant to celebrate the subject. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. Now I back out and I look at it and I go, okay, there's a few things here I'm not too happy with, so I'm gonna take out that upper lip and I'm going to I'm going to squint at the reference, I'm going to squint at the photo, and I'm going to change a few things that I think aren't quite working. First of all, I'm going to move this hairline back. This eyebrow is bothering me a bit. Eyebrow follows the top of that orbital socket, but he's raising his eyes up. He's raising his eyebrows up, so they're going up and they're going back into the slopey forehead, which, by the way, I got to change that too. I really want to emphasize the forward movement of this image. So I'm going to raise those eyebrows up a bit. I think that's more where I was headed before. Let's see. There's a lot of stretching involved for carpal tunnel syndrome. If you can go, well, yeah, that's great advice. I'm lucky I never had it. A lot of advice for artists on how to make your life easier. That's one thing I've never had to deal with. I have a really comfy chair. That's a big one. Like I said, I draw in a barber chair. Picked it up at a antique shop in Boston a couple years ago. It's great. It's kind of wearing out, but it's a lot of fun to sit in it because every morning I have to crank it up, and for some reason that really does it for me. It's very gratifying. He has absolutely no wrinkles in his forehead, Jimmy. That's kind of strange. There's some Botox happening. It's weird because his eyebrows are raised up. So now is the point where I could really start to render and get carried away with it. So I'm going to not do that. Although sometimes I just can't help myself. I'm having fun. I hope you guys are having fun as well. I am. Let's see. I'm just going to kind of now. What I would do first of all, if I was doing this as a real job, exactly what I would do now is I would put it away, no matter what my deadline was. A lot of jobs have to be done right away, like that night. But no matter what I'm working on, I always have to get up and get away from it. Uh, it's just, you have to do that. Otherwise, it's kind of like looking at a word over and over again. You kind of forget what it means. And at this point, what I would be doing is, especially if I was doing a painting, I would size it up and I would do a wide format printout of it on 11 by 17 or 13 by, I think I have 13 by 19 paper. And I would do a printout, and then I would put that behind a piece of illustration board and put it on a light table and ink it that way. So a lot of my work is designed and drawn on the computer. I'm not talking about sketching for fun. I'm talking about real paying jobs. Nobody asked that yet. Like Hirschfeld. Yeah. Hirschfeld's one of my favorites. Whoever asked who my favorite was, I don't have a favorite. Hirschfeld, he's way up there. I got to meet him a number of times. It's a great story. Take my word on it. Finish up his ear. You don't want to forget about these ears. I can tell a lot about an artist by how they treat ears. If an artist just throws away the ear and does, one of these, I know that they're not really paying attention. Now, I'm not talking about cartooning. I'm talking about caricature. So I am going to look at his ears, and I want to get a little bit. My other earbud is dying. These things don't last long. Oh. I want to see if can people still hear me? Make a comment really quick. My earbuds just made a funny noise. I'm going to watch the comments quick. Hello. See, I'm going to do a. Yes, okay, good. Oh, yeah, did it go out for a bit? Sorry. Actually, I'm doing a little spotlight layer right now, so I'm going to make this layer a lot less. Oops. You see, I have the opacity and all that turned up, so you get that kind of bumpy line on the edge of this this shape I just drew. This is obviously a layer, not obviously, but this is a layer behind what I was drawing on, which is why I can erase and not monkey with the lines I've already drawn. Can hear you now, good. Yeah, I think that's about it. Maybe I'll add a little bit more. What I could do now is kind of one last pass here. Just kind of, I want to squint at that photo, and I want to just add some darks where I think it needs more darks, because now I've got this spotlight thing happening. I don't want to add solid color, but I am going to add some cross hatching. I'm a big fan of cross hatching. The side of his face here. Not too much, just enough to help add a little bit of dimension, some sculpturalness to his face. This is where I tend to get really carried away, and I find myself having to really reel it in. Folds of the jacket aren't even. Thanks a lot. Everybody's a critic. All right, now I'm just kind of, now is the point where I could just keep going and doing this and adding, and you know, I think that's a very typical artist thing to do. So I'm going to call it quits right there. Every artist knows that. When you're done, that's what people usually ask that one. How do you know when you're done? Well, I work right up until deadlines, so that's when I'm done, generally. So yeah, I think that's about it. Maybe I could see adding a few more flips to his hair. Yeah, it doesn't really work. He's got kind of a hip haircut, which is funny because he's getting kind of old. I noticed that he has his hairline covered up, which I can relate to that. Here's one thing. I am going to do one more thing quick. Thanks, folds are great. I want to add some contrast to this because I have that dark. Oops, I have that dark at the bottom. I'm just going to add a quick layer just of some darks. And I'm using the same color that I've been using. I would call it a sepia. It's just basically red. That's, got a lot of black added into it. Like I said before, whenever I do any inking, I always ink with non-black. I use FW Red Earth and FW Sepia mixed, and I make my own. But I'm going to wrap this up soon. If anybody has any questions, fire away. I'm going to look at the comments here in a bit. I'm going to give this drawing a rest and head right to the comments. All right. I think that's about it. So there's a quick caricature, really rough, of a start of Jimmy. So I am going to turn off. This is always hard to do. Trying to find all of my images here. I'm going to put my socials back on because if I don't, that would be bad. And I'm going to, sorry everybody, turn that on. Each little source I have to turn back on. So here we are. So yeah, that's that. I don't know what the last thing was I said, but I guarantee you it was fantastic. I was talking about being a commercial artist and not getting too attached to drawings. the drawings that you do are that I do as a commercial artist are for someone else. They're not for me. I put myself into them and I take pride in what I do. But my point is, as a commercial artist, you have to be willing to work with other people on it. I'm not a gallery painter. If I draw for fun, things like sketchbooks and painting and all that, that's on my own. But I make my living drawing for other people, and I love doing it. I wouldn't have it any other way. Mad Magazine, you better believe it, I get art directed. I do a lot of, like I said before, I do a lot of advertising, and that's all art direction. That's being able to draw live and work on whatever scene you're working on or whatever you're working on, and having a team of art directors behind you. That's one thing I've always been good at. That's what I tell young artists who want to go into commercial art. Yeah, you got to learn how to draw. You got to learn anatomy. You got to learn composition. You got to learn blah 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 blah. But what they don't teach you in school is how to work with other people. Uh, if you have an artist attitude, maybe commercial art's not the thing for you. Uh, that's what I say about that. I'm going to look at the comments quick and see if there's anything I missed. The society is going to kill me because I've gone over. Um, a lot of griping that you couldn't hear me. Sorry about that. Can hear you. Awesome. Okay. When you're doing a job after it's submitted, how many edits are usually done? That depends completely on the job. I have some art directors that always love everything I do the first time around. I have some that make changes and changes and changes. I think sometimes because they just think they have to. It's always different. Uh, yeah, no good answer to that. If I'm working with a new client and it's a long-term project and it's one big image, I work it into the contract. You get a total of 2 revisions, and then after that, I charge. But I rarely do that. No, it's good. Cake tooth. I think it's great that you went over. Oh, you're the best. Uh, yeah, I think that's it. I don't see any more questions here. This is fun. I've been looking forward to doing this all week, and I have, although I haven't quite mastered this software yet. Wait a second. Oh, look at that. There's my socials. Uh, like I said, I've been doing live stream drawing things all week just for fun. It breaks up the day, and I never thought I'd be the one to do this, but it's actually been kind of fun. So I may do more. I don't have anything planned. One thing I am going to do this weekend is I'm going to film a studio tour. Yeah, PM night. Uh, Finding time to do that's been tricky. I need to do it soon because everything is really clean. My my studio is nice and cleaned up, and I have all kinds of fresh paper all ready to go because, like I said, I'm in the middle of this book project. So yeah, I need to do that. So I promise I will get that filmed this weekend, and I I'm not sure if I'll post it here on Instagram. It wouldn't be on the Society of Illustrators. It'd be on my own. Uh, but either way, it'll end up on YouTube somewhere, but Facebook. I think I'll post it there. I have a website too. You know what? That's what I'll do. I'll put it on the website, and yeah, so just check back there. Uh, Instagram, that's all that stuff there. My Facebook and Instagram are all the same. That's the very first time I've ever pimped out social media. I feel dirty, kind of like when I watched Tiger King. Ugh. Hey, David, thanks, man. What are the awards behind you? Oh, those are chocolate. Oh, those. Those are awards from the National Cartoonist Society, of which I happen to be the vice president. Uh, they give the National Cartoonist Society, this is good for the artists in the room. The National Cartoonist Society gives out awards every year. Best in magazine illustration, best in comic strips, best in editorial comics, best in, I think there's 16 or 17 divisional awards they give out every year. I've got 2 of them. I think they're both for advertising illustration. And they also give out a big trophy every year for Cartoonist of the Year. I don't have that. Uh, the blonde behind me is Sarah Jessica Parker. It is just, I always was a fan of the show Night Court. And if you've ever seen Night Court, Harry Stone always had a big photo of Jean Harlow behind him, and I always thought it was so funny and cool. And that came across my desk, and I went, oh, I need to put that up. No other story than that. What did I have for breakfast? Coffee. What software are you using to share your screen cameras? Everybody wants to know that. I use OBS software and Yellow Duck. That's it. I think Joe Gorelek, who's on here, he actually recommended that to me. It's a big pain in the butt to set up, but I did it. If you get stuck, I'm actually pretty good at it. I haven't done it for anything else besides Instagram. So I don't know how it works with anything else, but I got it working okay. There's a lot of moving parts though. That's it. I'm going to sign off. Yeah. Thanks for coming by, everybody. I appreciate this. I'm not sure if they're here, but I do want to thank the Society of Illustrators for allowing me to do this. Anel and Lindsay are the ones who orchestrated all this. They're fantastic. So hang on to this Instagram because they're having a lot of artist talks in the next couple weeks. We've all got a lot of time on our hands. So, you know, this will be cool. I had fun doing this. I got a lot out of it. Hope you guys did too. I recorded this. I don't know what to do with it. I'll probably put it on YouTube or something. I have a very underused YouTube channel. Don't go look it out. It's not very good. That's it. Okay. With that, everybody, I'm going to log off. I hope everyone stays safe. It's Friday night, and we're all in. So I appreciate you being here. That's it. Good night.